Hi, welcome to Conversations in Black. I'll be your host. My name is Nathan Townsend. Welcome. Conversations in Black is a program of the Black Leadership AIDS Crisis Coalition, which was formed in an effort to provide opportunities to have real conversations about HIV, sexual health, and sexual empowerment amongst different targeted populations within the Black African American community. The goal is to get Black people who are normally not having these types of conversations to begin to have discussions in a safe and supportive environment. The more our community is educated and armed with knowledge and resources about their sexual health, the more we can begin to reduce the stigma around these topics and help to save our communities from the devastating impact of HIV, STDs, and other environmental disorders. Thank you for tuning in today. We have some exciting guests lined up to discuss our topic today, which is seasoned sexuality. Oh, it's hot and spicy. Our first guest, Dr. Zandretta Tim Cooks. Dr. Zandretta Tim Cooks received her medical degree from Cornell Medical College in New York. She completed her infectious disease residency at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Dr. Tim's Cook is currently in practice in the West End of Atlanta. She is the founder of Heather Ivy. I've heard a lot about Heather Ivy Society through Freda Jones and Kennedy Lohman. We know that you're doing great work with empowering women living with HIV here in Atlanta. Tell me why you would start an organization like Heather Ivy and why it's so important to address the voices of HIV positive women.
Absolutely. So first, it's an honor to spend the moment with you and discuss something, as you stated, that's very important to us, that our community deserves to be educated and empowered to the utmost. But Heather Ivy Society was founded in a voided space where there was nothing that really addressed the special circumstances that are evident for women who are living and thriving with HIV. There are those special circumstances of motherhood and childbearing, breastfeeding options. And so those are special conversations and a special type of support that women are needing and also deserve. And I guess today we're going to talk about a different segment, also
Yeah.
special circumstances, as we talk about seniors. So this is undoubtedly going to be an exciting conversation.
And it in fact is, not only are we going to talk about Stella getting her groove back, but we're going to be talking about her being able to keep it and keep it moving in a safe and productive way. In your practice, what are you seeing with regards to the sexual practices of individuals over 50?
Well, I think the thing that is perhaps not shocking at all, we're living longer and
Right.
healthier. We have vigorous seniors. 50 is the new 30. And so, of course, with it are all of the things that are a part of life. Naturally, people need to sleep, people need to eat. And of course, sexuality is a simple part of just the human experience. So
Right.
people are engaging, and we have those conversations just to make sure everybody is equipped with the information that they're needing.
I know early on at the onset of the epidemic, many individuals who were diagnosed, and especially those who were diagnosed with advanced HIV, many of them, their testimonies was that they were never going to have sex again. They felt violated, they felt depressed, they felt like they were not worthy. But are you seeing a difference now that our lives are being extended by the antiretrovirals and the medication that has actually allowed us to enter into this era of being able to say that we are seniors?
Right. So, there are two things I would say about that. For one, it was predicted years ago that by 2018,
Mhm.
half of the people living with HIV would be over the age of 50. And that, again, is in part, as you stated, to the fact that our medicines are effective. A person may have been initially diagnosed when he or she was 25. And because the medicines work, they have lived a life that extends past the age of 50. But the other part of it is I think most people will start out saying that, they've kind of given up on the whole sexual experience. And my answer to them is always, well, you say that today. Once you recognize that life continues, we'll have these conversations again so that you stay safe and your partners stay safe.
And with regards to that, do you see many of your clients asking you about safer precautions, especially over 50, when especially with heterosexual women, they're past the prime where they're not necessarily worried about reproduction, and so do you have to reintroduce safer practices with them?
Right. I would say introduce, because you're
Okay,
absolutely right. I think a lot of people who are over the age of 50, and depending on how far over the age of 50, they came of age in an era where prevention of pregnancy was the priority. And you didn't have to worry about STIs, and certainly HIV, which didn't we didn't know existed until the 1980s. And so, if they have lived a lifetime in the context of a marriage and then they're dating again or circumstances happen, they have never had the experience of having to think beyond pregnancy.
right.
And being over the age of 50 presents a very vulnerable place, because you're now having to deal with things, think about things, consider things that you hadn't before, coupled with the fact that the physiology, anatomy of aging can sometimes predispose you more to transmissions from HIV and other STIs. So my mantra is, nobody comes in the door, um, or at least leaves the door, without having been educated and informed about all things HIV related.
I'm glad to hear that, because many times many providers look at seniors and think that they're not at risk, and I think that it's important for us to realize that as long as we're breathing and having activities that put us at risk, then we actually need to have these types of conversations. And speaking of conversations, we have some exciting guests that we are going to bring on now. The first, Dion Smith. Dion is a co-founder and deputy director of the Reginald and Dion Smith Foundation, whose mission is to provide for the wellness, awareness, and restoration of Black people with and highly impacted by HIV, viral hepatitis, and or substance use disorders, particularly in rural and southern communities in the United States. Dion is an HIV negative woman married for 37 years to an HIV positive man, and an advocate for those who are affected by HIV. Dion, welcome. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing excellent today.
So you've been in a discordant relationship for 37 years.
Yes.
And how was that for you to was Reggie HIV positive when you met him, or did this happen in the course of your marriage?
Well, we assumed that he was positive when I met him, but we didn't know because he hadn't been tested.
Okay.
We got pregnant and
Okay.
figured, well, we didn't want to bring a child into the world not knowing our status. So we decided to go get tested. And he came back positive and I came back negative.
And so in that moment, what was your thoughts?
Um, oh my God, it was such a long time ago. But I know my initial feeling was fear.
Okay.
I feared that I would have this child and I would have to explain to him how his dad died because I just knew he was going to die,
Right. Right.
because back in the 80s, there were no real cures or, those that were taking AZT were dropping off. And it was a very scary time in my life, you know.
But you stayed in there.
I stayed, I stayed, I stayed, I stayed, and I stayed until I found out why I stayed.
And what was that reason?
And I stayed because God chose me for this journey because I am not alone. There are many who are affected by HIV and AIDS. And I didn't know that until 2005.
Wow.
Yeah.
And too often we don't think about that other side of the coin. That side of the coin that is the support platform for individuals living with HIV, and the platform that those who love us. And so I appreciate your efforts and your message here today. Uh, Mr. Reginald Irving is our next guest. Mr. Reginald Irvin is a heterosexual Black man, a native of Atlanta that has been diagnosed with HIV for over 20 years. Reggie has been married to an HIV negative woman, and they have had a child together since his diagnosis. His experiences reflect an often and important untold story in our effort to eradicate AIDS. And that story is that, HIV can impact everyone. It has no preference for your sexuality, doesn't care if you're gay, straight, bisexual. HIV is there. And the only way that we can eliminate this is by becoming undetectable and having these kind of conversations to educate community that there are instances and situations that they can prevail themselves of that can help them to decrease their risk. So Reggie, welcome today to Seasoned Sexuality. So tell us a little bit of something about your journey.
Hey, everybody. Well, yes, I'm I was diagnosed with the virus early in my recovery. I think I had like a year. I
Okay.
think like 18 months clean, and I was dating. I was dating this. I was dating, but I was married to my first wife, and she would go and get tested like every 6 months.
Okay.
And when we got together, we had sex a few times without condoms, and all of a sudden the conversation came up about when last time I've been tested. I said, well, I've really never been tested. You know what I mean? I'm fresh in recovery. I'm fresh from the streets, and I never really got tested. I got tested, but I never went and got the results back. But one morning, me and her went down to the Fulton County Health Department and got tested.
Okay.
Her test uh, her test came back negative. Mine came back positive. And like Dion said, the initial feeling was fear.
Okay.
I didn't know anybody who was actually living with the virus. All I knew they were getting the virus and dying. And mindful, I was just in new recovery. I recovered from drugs, and that was a very, very, very scary moment in my life. And I never forget, she introduced me. Well, she gave me Reggie number, and I didn't call him immediately. I waited like a week or two, and all of a sudden, God just gave me the willingness to do something different, and I called Reggie, man, and finally I was actually talking to somebody who was actually living with the virus, and I remember Reggie getting sick, real sick, and everybody was looking for him to die, and God just came and just showed down and just show exactly what He was able to do, and Reggie just bounced back, man. And I'm like, I'm still amazed by that. That I'm just really amazed of how God just turned that whole situation around.
And he will do it, won't he?
He
So
did
let's
it,
put a
and
pin in it right there because we got one more guest I need to bring on. Her name is Kimberly. Kimberly, come on down.
All right.
And look how beautiful she is. So Kimberly, I don't have any information on you, so you must be the wild card. So tell us, you introduce us to you. Who are you?
Well, my name is Kimberly. I am native Atlantan.
Okay.
Um, I'm 56 years old,
Oh, it's you lying.
and I have, everybody has a story,
Okay.
so I can tie into this conversation in a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
Um, I think initially Dion called me because she knew that I was rescued off the streets of Atlanta. Um, uh, I call the Hope Line.
Okay.
And what that is, they will rescue prostitutes.
Okay.
You call them and they will pick you up where you are, take you to a safe house, and help get you into a program that changes your life.
Okay.
That's how I'm here.
And so you were a former sex worker who was rescued, and now you're living a whole different life.
Yes.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and I really thank you for being so bold and so brave. And this is a brave and a safe space as we begin this conversation about seasoned sexuality. Reggie, I think we got a couple of clips that we want to talk about at this point.
And we want to know, do seniors still have satisfying sex?
Absolutely. This senior does.
Yes. But we've been together since March of 1977. And I mean, I would just have to say that things have changed over time because of time. Because of age and different responsibilities that aren't as prevalent in our life as before, but mostly because I say the age factor.
I would think that seniors are still having satisfying sex. I'd like to believe that they are. Yes.
And I would say I totally agree. When we first met, of course, I was 19 and he was like in his early 23. So we was hot and heavy. And, after having children and life on life turns and circumstances, we may have drifted as far as having it as often and as much as we did. And as Vinny said, as we age, different situations changes things, but it doesn't change that we still are in love, we still make love, and we still enjoy it very much.
What's it like being blind and being a senior and having sex at all?
Satisfying. It's very much satisfying. One of the joys of living.
So now we have to kind of qualify some of your responses. You're talking about seniors. What about the disabled community?
It's the same thing.
Same difference.
Yeah.
We absolutely do. Yes, we do. Matter of fact, we have great sex.
Sometimes. In order to have satisfying sex, in my opinion, you have to have deep and meaningful connection to someone for it to be satisfying. And as a senior, I know what I want. I know what I'm attracted to. I know what I don't want. And I know what I do want. And so I am looking for those things and I am attracting those things to me. So when I attract that to me, then I can have satisfying sex.
Wow, we've heard from our gallery at home, and now we're going to probe into the ones right here in the room. But before we go to the panel, I want to ask Dr. Timms Cook, is there any physiological difference or nuances that seniors experience that would disqualify them from having satisfying sex? Because I think the myths out there are that we age and then we just lose interest, or our bodies just don't have the abilities to be as athletic and as energized and as vibrant as it was when we were younger. So I need you to bring some light to that question.
Yeah. There's the mental, emotional, as well as the physical part of sex. And I can't speak for everyone, but from what I can see, that mental part, that desire never leaves. It's as much a part of living and breathing as anything else. Now, yes, there are some physiologic circumstances that change as we advance in age. They aren't things that necessarily exclude sex, but they are things that might require some additional support to keep it satisfying. For example, many men can have issues with erectile dysfunction.
Okay.
We have things that can remedy that. For women, as hormone levels change, the walls that line the vagina can thin, and it can make sex sometimes more uncomfortable. And there are remedies also for that. But for the most part, I have had couples who are in their late 70s or 80s who, in the right context, they will kindly let you know that they are still enjoying every part of their marriage that they always did.
So, Kimberly, talk to me. Do you think that seniors still have satisfying sex?
Yes, they should. I mean, if you're capable and able, then yes. I do.
Okay. And for you, has anything changed because you're older?
Yes. I now take blood pressure pills,
Okay.
and my husband takes blood pressure pills. So that's kind of it kind of puts a barrier on
Okay.
it. In my mind, yes, I'm sexually active, but the actual get up and go and do it, it sometimes wavers. That's on both of our parts. But the thing is, I just have to keep going because my husband is such a good provider and I no
Okay.
longer work now. So
Okay.
when he says, I'm kind of horny, then, I just have to get up and do my part, and help celebrate him because I appreciate it, you know. So you
And
shouldn't have
so,
to ask twice, I don't think.
okay. I like that mantra. You shouldn't have to ask twice unless it's the second time around. So, Deanna, you've been with this man for 37 years. What could possibly keep you interested in somebody like Reggie?
Um, it goes greater than sex.
Okay.
Um, the older I get, the more important intimacy is to me. You
Hey, come
know,
on.
I love sex.
Mm-hmm.
I love the conversation even more. And those are the things that have kept us together because there was a time when I was afraid to have sex
Okay.
because I was in fear of becoming positive,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to reject Reggie, but I wanted to live, and we didn't know how to.
Right.
So we began to protect me by using condoms,
Okay.
and that was different because that was something that we weren't used to, and then my head got in the way. So I learned how to love him in a different light, in a
Okay.
in a in a in a more I would say a more less physical and more mental.
So, did you ever think about prep as an option for your
I did, and I took prep, and I didn't like the way it made me feel.
Okay.
And I
What
tell you,
what about
go
what
ahead.
about now that they have an injectable? Would you consider that
Well, I was told now that if long as he's test negative, as long as he stays undetectable,
undetectable?
my chances of contracting the virus are slim to none. And
See,
then I was watching Reggie and his wife, and I was getting real messed up with them because I knew they was having unprotected sex, and they didn't have no problem talking about it, and I was using condoms, and I was having an issue. I was having issues with that because I was practicing safe sex using condoms, and it was something that I wasn't used to.
Okay, but you made it do because you wanted to have that safety within your relationship.
Absolutely.
So, Reggie, talk about your experience. Reginald.
Hey, yeah. Just like I'm picking back what Dion was saying, as long as I took care of myself and took my meds and became undetectable and found out, you know what I mean, it was okay for her to have sex without my wife getting infected, slim or none.
Right.
And just like the doctor said earlier, saying like 50 is just a new 30, especially in the bedroom now. You know what I mean? We just and we had a daughter 10 years ago, and both of them are safe, and it's the proof is in the pudding. I take my meds faithfully every day, and my wife don't let me run out. She'll go get my meds, and it's a team effort. And also, like it's a psychological thing before the I was undetectable. You know what I mean? My wife has some fear, so it's a process. You have to go through, you have to go through some stuff and persevere to some stuff, and to get where we at now. You know what I mean? It wasn't easy, but it have been rewarding.
So tell me, did you think it would be like this before? Like before you became this age? What did you think sex and sexuality would look like for you?
Oh man, when I first got diagnosed, I just felt like damaged good. You know what I mean? I felt clean, but I felt dirty, and I felt like I was a disease.
Okay.
And I had to go through. I went to a little depression, and the only thing that key that worked for me, man, I stayed going to meetings, and I didn't use. And like I said, man, I trust the process, and like I said, it was very rewarding, and I'm glad.
We need to celebrate you for that, because there are so many that might be looking that could be struggling with their relationship with substances, that could be struggling with their relationships to sex work, that could be struggling with their relationships to accepting themselves. And so these affirmative messages that you guys are giving is absolutely wonderful. And I really do appreciate the time and effort that you're taking to share in this conversation today.
Yes.
So how has your sexual attitudes changed now that you have become a senior? So I'm going to direct that question to you, Kimberly. Has how your attitude towards it different now, outside of the hypertension?
No, it's not different. Like I said before, it's in my mind a whole lot. But the actual get up and go and do it, it's like we have to, like, okay, my husband can be lying there, he wants sex. And I said, okay, let me go and take a shower. And I come back from the shower and I hear, and sometimes I'll let that ride, but sometimes I was like, oh no, I told you, give me about 5 minutes, you don't go to sleep that quick. So yeah, it still happens. I know he works a lot.
Okay.
Like maybe 6 days a week for half a year or more. And I don't want to put too much pressure on him as far as that, because he's older than me. But I mean, we're still human,
Right.
we still have needs. And I always say it's in my mind, if I have to play the role of whoever it is I have to play the role of, I have many, many hats that I
Oh,
can put
shucks. Now we're
on,
getting to the nitty gritty.
yeah, just
Let's
to
talk
keep
about these
keep
hats.
it going. Yeah.
So you still believe in fantasies and role playing and all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
Because a lot
Absolutely.
of times, as we age, sometimes we put away some of the things that we did when we were younger, which really were actually exciting for us then. And so I'm going to go to Dion and ask Dion, because she tried. When I talked to her yesterday, she was crocheting like she was some little old lady, and I didn't know how she was going to show up in the conversation. But she got to be doing something right to be keeping that man for 37 years and vice versa. So Dion, come on down.
What do you want to know? I don't know. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes.
I want to know how y'all keep the fire burning after 37 years.
It's just sometimes it's a little what you call that? It's not a big fire.
A flicker.
A flicker. Sometimes it's a flicker, but the light never goes out.
All right.
We found other ways to entertain ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I should say this, but I just purchased a rose.
I heard about that.
I was on Facebook, and this thing kept coming up in my news feed. So I started reading the comments, and I was like, "Oh shoot, I need one of those." And it was so funny because I brought it, and it's something that I'm not, I've never brought any toys before, so I
Mhm.
didn't know anything, and I get this thing, and I mentioned to Reggie, I said, I brought one of those, and he was like, one of what? I said, one of those, and I showed him, and he was like, oh really? But I didn't let him know that I had it, and it was in the drawer, okay. And I took the directions out, and I dropped them on the floor. And he comes to me said, "Are these yours?" I was so I was so embarrassed. I was like, "Oh my gosh." But I'm willing to try something different because it's the same old stuff all of the time, and I enjoy making love to my husband.
Okay.
Sometimes I think over the years, sometimes it had gotten mechanical, sometimes it
Mhm.
gets like maintenance, and then there's them times when it feels like love making. So it goes through different stages for me. And I find that where when I was younger, I enjoyed love making at night, but now I'm like a first thing in the morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning, and
Yeah, let's get it in.
exactly, you know. So it has changed over the years, and I think that we're experiencing a new level in our lives. Where it's the first time since I was 12 years old that I hadn't been responsible for anybody other than myself, and I am freaky free.
Okay.
There's no one in the house. My mom moved to Florida. My granddaughter went to live with her mother, and it's just he and I. So we just do what we do when we can do what we do. We don't have no inhibitions.
But isn't that nice though? Is that a
it's
nice space for you to be in?
it's a space where I've never been in my entire life. I've been
Wow.
raising kids or somebody's kids,
Mhm.
whether it's mine, my mother's, my kids, since I was 12 years old. I am 64 years old.
Wow. And
So
so finally at this age, you're able to do you.
I'm experiencing a whole new level of freedom that I never knew existed. It was almost like when we were diagnosed, we kept a secret,
Right.
and I did not know how much bondage I was in until I got free.
Isn't
And
that
it's the same,
something?
yes, and it's the same
Yeah.
type of freedom that I'm experiencing now.
And that bondage, that was because of stigma?
Yes, I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want people to look at me and figure what was wrong with me that I was in love with a man who was HIV positive.
Right.
You know, I didn't want the world to know. I had a very successful hair salon in Marietta. I was
Mhm.
doing everybody in church's hair. I was singing in the choir. I was going to Bible study on Wednesdays. Reggie was coming to church with me when he felt like it. And then he decides one New Year's Eve he's going to give a testimony. Y'all know I like to kill them, right?
Right.
I
Wow.
wanted. We went on a cruise the next day, and I wanted to throw him overboard
Because he
because
put it out there. He told that secret.
yes, because he told a secret. I mean, and I tell you the truth, it was the best thing that could have ever happened. And I remember the way I felt. I felt like people were going to judge me. I felt like I was going to lose my business. And I had been doing hair probably I had owned a salon, I guess, for about 10, 15 years. And everybody always came to me with their problems. And I would listen
Mhm.
to them and I would share my experiences with them. And, because I'm a fixer.
Okay.
I'm learning today how not to fix stuff. But anyway, I would always be there for them. And when they found out what I was carrying, they were amazed. And the love that came through it was so much, it overwhelmed me.
And
I
that's a
just,
message. That's a message right there for all of us that are afraid to disclose, that are afraid to open up and to trust the process and allow the universe to show us its forgiveness and show us its love. And I understand and I realize and have experienced that bondage that comes, in some of those rooms they say your secrets keep you sick. And
mm-hmm,
there is a liberation process that comes with that and a freedom that comes with not having to hold that secret in, whether that secret is that I'm a sex worker, whether it's that I'm homo, that I'm gay, whether the secret is that, I'm using drugs. Once we address that and once we find ways to just celebrate our authenticity, life
mm-hmm,
is a lot different. And so with Reggie opening up like that, it allowed you to see how people could be there for you. Because so many times we think that if we're compassionate people, Why do we think that we don't have compassionate people around us? You know, we deserve just what we give out. And so, Reggie, you know, how hard was it to navigate recovery with your HIV diagnosis?
Uh, it went hand in hand, because I contracted the virus by my behaviors,
Okay.
and addiction is much more than using drugs. I mean, you can be addicted to shopping, gambling, and sex. Sex was really my first drug of choice
Okay.
before the initial drug. It was it was having sex, and sex is it's a feeling, and I got addicted to that feeling, and that transpired into my drug addiction. So did the behaviors. So once I got clean, my my behavior changed,
Okay.
and I was able to make healthier decisions.
So so post recovery, after you recovered, you know, I've heard people talk about sober sex, you know, that sex is different and that all they knew how to have sex was under the influence. What was that like for you?
Oh man, and you're right. Drugs and sex came hand in hand, and so when I got clean, you know, it was a process. It was a process, and it was a really a mind thing, and because if one part is not working, the other part is not gonna work.
Okay.
So you have to be like on the same wavelength, and it depends on the person who you with. If you like a person and you already attracted to that person, the other part gonna work easier.
Okay.
So it's yeah, it's just a mind thing, and now I think I had the best sex I ever had, even before I got high.
So what makes so can you expound on that some? Like why is it so much better now?
Because it's like it's not with a random person, and like your decisions, like
Mhm.
going out, like circling the block and just finding somebody to have sex with, because you trying to fix a feeling with a feeling.
Okay. I
And
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now, so now I'm with a person that I love. I'm married to, and we're having amazing sex, and you don't have to pause to go get a beer. So
Wow. Or a cigarette, right?
oh, cigarette. Yeah, because I stopped smoking like 11 years when me and my wife got pregnant. I stopped smoking. So yes,
Congratulations. So we're talking about really clean sex.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Kimberly, how hard was it for you to transition from having sex as a sex worker to being able to be vulnerable with an individual and intimate with someone outside of that arena? Was it a hard transition for you to trust someone?
Not at all.
Okay.
I guess it was because of the recovery process that I went through,
Okay.
um, which helped me bring me back to the woman that God created me to be.
Hmm.
You know, I was also trapped out there in addiction,
Hmm.
you know, and that was how I made most of my money to keep my addiction going.
Okay.
But with that process that I went through, it was such a relief, you know. I was tired, you know, and I wanted to change. So with the changing of the mindset, you know, and by me being older now,
Hmm.
it was time to settle down, and I'm grateful for the whole process because it did bring me a husband, you know. And when we first met, he told me that he had the herpes,
Okay.
and but it was undetectable, and I was scared to death. I didn't know because I felt in my heart that this was the man for me. I felt by the words that I had written, like a whole 6 months before I met him, I sat down and I wrote, the type of man that I wanted as a husband. And I said, although these are my words, I'm going to still let, God's will be done in my life because I messed up a lot of times. I said, but if he don't come knocking on my door saying, Kim, Jesus sent me, then he is not the one, right? So many had come, but without those words. And when he came to me, he said, the spirits of my ancestors sent me to you. And
Wow.
I was like, oh my goodness. So I knew, with what I had gone through, and me straightening up my life, that God was going to send me somebody, but then by him telling me that status, so for like maybe about 6 months, I was scared and I used condoms with sex.
Mhm.
And then I said, well, okay, I'm not going anywhere. He's mine. I'm his, and I'm just let it happen. Whatever happens, I had to trust the process.
Okay. So you still feel safe and secure in your relationship now?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Mhm.
So, Dr. Tim Cooks, do you see this a lot in your practices where people are open to having relationships with people who have situations that are some managed and some that are uncurable? What do you see in these types of situations?
Yeah, I honestly have not personally encountered a couple where, after establishing a relationship on other levels, have the partner who's negative abandon the relationship simply because of an infection. So it's very encouraging to know that and see it. And I think it speaks to what you said earlier in the show, that, why do we not expect people to be compassionate? And, everybody who's on the panel has spoken to the same story. And I think that is more the norm than not. And hopefully, if anyone's listening to that, who is desiring to have relationship, but afraid to kind of step out and expose that part of themselves to just witness the love and the longevity of the relationships you all speak about and how it endures through everything. So, I mean, that, it just is, beautiful to hear.
It is beautiful to hear. And, I'm sitting over here just like almost tearing up, the more I hear y'all stories, because each of you have talked about, moving through struggle, pushing past pain, and trusting that God has put that person in your life that is supposed to be in your life, and you didn't question it and you didn't judge it, you accepted it, and look how meaningful it is. The question I have now is that if you were HIV positive, because we know a lot of people who are HIV positive feel like the only way that they're going to have a meaningful relationship is with if it's with someone else who is also HIV positive. And I already kind of know what your answers are, but I have to pose the question. If you were HIV positive, do you think that you would only want to have relationships with someone who is HIV positive, and why?
Do you think that a person that's HIV positive feels like they need to find someone else who's HIV positive in order to have sex?
Oh, absolutely not. I know quite a few women that's HIV positive, yes, and they have found partners that are not positive, and they seem to make it work very well. Yeah, it's stigma that was on it many years ago that has changed a lot, because so many people are living long, full lives with it and enjoying their life. And I've seen that happen with a lot of couples that one have and the other one doesn't, and a lot of women that have and meet men that doesn't. Or I've sponsored women that have it and say, I hate that I meet somebody and then I have to tell them, if I see it getting serious, that I have my status, and and sometimes I hate it because it's always some fall off and some it doesn't matter. But I said, well, you know what? Then there's who fall off is not supposed to be a partner for you. So that's a good thing. because you would eliminate anybody that would have an issue with that. So you wouldn't have to feel any kind of way, but so, yeah.
But the point of it is that I think when the person with the disability have to rely on somebody else to help them maintain their independence, that caregiver person a whole lot of times make those types of choices for the disabled person. I've always been told that we are one of the worst counties in Georgia when it comes to STDs. But the average disabled person who relies on a caregiver, the caregivers often have this mindset, that disabled person ain't got no business having sex or whatever. So there's not much effort put into getting the word out, or to even take programs to where these type people congregate at. The adult person with the disability go to this program for about 5 or 6 hours during the day. And you would think that the public health departments or programs or any other organization that deals with healthy sexual activities would go to those places and have these conversations targeting that audience, because people with disabilities enjoy sex if given the opportunity, and they would do it the normal way, or if they are prohibited by the people who are supposed to be their care providers or part of their support team. And if they deny the disabled person that opportunity, the disabled person gonna wind up just acting off of natural instinct.
I would have to guess on that one. I would probably look to date someone who was HIV positive. That would simply eliminate the need to disclose to someone who was not. I don't know. Kind of hard to answer that one. But I would probably want to date someone that was in the same status that I'm in.
I don't know. I really don't know. My first inclination is to say both and. But I really don't know.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Man or woman, if he is honestly stating your status and affording the person an opportunity to make the decision for themselves. But I do not think, and like Sandy said, we know over the years, thank God, there's so many miraculous things have happened that it's affords people of both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
If they choose to be together, that they could be together safely. So I don't have any negative feelings about that or thoughts about that.
No, I don't feel the need that I would need to do that unless my partner that I'm currently with decide that he doesn't want to be together. And if it happened that way, if the other person doesn't have to be positive, I mean, okay, fine, that's a plus, because you understand my situation and you understand where we are. I don't have to, I wouldn't have to worry about teaching you about the process, because if you're positive like I am, then, you would already know and understand, the mood swings, the up and downs, or whatever that looks like. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So that's the question. If you were HIV positive, would you feel like you needed to find someone else who is HIV positive, and why?
I would say no.
Who's that, Dion?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I say no as well.
Yeah, I think early on, individuals felt like, one, they didn't want to disclose. It was difficult to disclose, so it was easier to put themselves in spaces where they would only date people who were of liked status, until they found out that, that relationships are more than status. Just because they're HIV positive doesn't mean that they're going to be loving and caring. Just because they're HIV positive doesn't mean that they're going to be supportive and honest. Just because they're HIV positive doesn't mean that they're going to be intimate and transparent. And I think that the good thing about what medication and U equals U has allowed and afforded us is opportunity to not be stuck on our status, because we know that we, have limited opportunities for it to be transmissible. So it gives us, that's taken another layer of barrier off of us with that respect. Me personally, I was diagnosed in 1984. So I've been living with HIV for 38 years. And as a same gender loving individual and the only single individual here on this panel, sometimes life is difficult, at navigating spaces with regards to my sexuality and with regards to, finding intimacy, because what I find in my population is that people, tend to be somewhat hypersexual at times and not so much seeking intimacy as much as they're seeking sexual opportunities. And unfortunately, here in Atlanta, we see that there's a lot of opportunities or need for people to indulge in survival sex because they can't afford the living situations here. They don't have safe and affordable housing. So we see a lot of inequities with regards to that. And sometimes sex is their commodity. And so what we like to convey in this message is that, age is not a determining factor with us having satisfying sex. HIV is not necessarily a factor with regard to us finding true and lasting relationships. That is all about us being our better versions of ourselves and realizing that we are here for a purpose and that we're here to fulfill that purpose, whatever that is. Just some other questions. How do you think, what's the message that you would like to send out to those people who think that life is over after 50 or after 60 and that we should just go somewhere and sit down and be quiet in a corner? What do you say to that, Kimberly?
Well, my life started at 50. My new life started when I was 50. So I never gave up. I always had hope. And with that, I mean, a lot of different opportunities, new life, new beginnings, new husband, all of that has come since I turned 50,
Mhm.
so, and then I still had younger children, so I know I couldn't give up, I
Okay.
couldn't just stop, so, I say keep going, there's hope, you just have to, be open minded, you know. Don't put God in a box. Don't put
Okay.
yourself and your potentials in a box, because as long as I still have breath, there's no telling what I can accomplish in life,
And and
sexually or not.
and what is your message for those women that are still out in the street here in Atlanta that are doing what they're doing because they have to, or because someone is making them to? What is your message of hope for them on turning their situations around?
Um, well, I know with me, you know, no matter how many times I had tried before, I
Mhm.
still couldn't. But like that thorough butt whipping that they talk about, it's what I got. I did not know that they had a safe house for prostitutes. I did not know that somebody would come and pick you up from where you are if you wanted to leave that lifestyle. But once I found out about it, you know, um, shoot, I wanted to get a house just to house, ladies that would like to have that opportunity to get picked up off the street or to run away from who's ever holding them. Because I've come into a lot of horror stories
Mhm.
of that goes deeper than mine, and it is a way out. I just it is a way out, but like it took me and keeping that hope alive that it's not like God would hear me because what I figured out at that time, I was getting in my own way,
Okay.
so I had to totally surrender and want the change in life.
So it was that surrender that allowed you to get out of your own way and allow God to step in and
Exactly.
help you to navigate change in your life. And are you happy today?
I am.
Well,
I am very much so.
I can see it. I can see it in your face. I can see it in your smile. And I'm so glad that you were rescued. And I'm so glad that there is still that audacity, hope for all those that are still lost and still out there seeking refuge, that there is a way out of your situation. So, Reggie, um, talk to me about what life looks like for you now as a senior, sober, and doing what you do.
Life is great. Life is awesome, man. A guy told me a long time ago, two words. Always remember the effort and outcome. I'm responsible for the effort, and God responsible for the outcome.
That's beautiful, Reggie.
So,
That
so I,
is,
so I mean, every day I make an effort to better my life. I know if I better my life, the people around me benefit from it.
hmm
And it's just awesome, man. I hope, and I'm the morning chef at Emory now, and hopefully in a couple more years I'll be having my own little small restaurant business. Hopefully, I will always keep carrying the message of hope and freedom.
so tell me about that. When you were in your addiction, did you ever think that you would be in a place like you are to now?
No, man, because I had no hope in my life. Everything around me was destructive.
hmm
And that's why I think that's why God so fit not to find out my status while I was using. I probably would just killed
Gave
myself.
up. Okay.
And I didn't find out till I was positive, till I was clean, and God already had the angels waiting for me.
Wow.
And I'm just like I said, I was just the effort the effort I did. Asked me, he said, just don't use, and I
hmm
got you.
Ain't
You
that
know,
something?
and I followed.
So many people have always said that HIV was a gay man's disease, and as a heterosexual man, how did you how did that make you feel?
well, I'm not confused about my sexuality.
Okay.
It's not a gay man disease, not a black man disease. It's life on life term disease.
Yes.
If you mess with somebody and you have unprotected sex, it's a chance that what I mean you gonna get infected or you gonna get impregnated. So you're gonna come out with something with an STD or you gonna get pregnant.
Right.
And nothing to do with your sexuality. It's life on life terms. That's what we're dealing with now. Life on life terms, man. And like I said, I'm not confused by my sexuality. But I welcome anybody, man, who we all got a voice. I
And we
mean,
do.
we all got our experience and how it don't matter how I got it, it's how I'm living with it. And that's more importantly than anything, because it's two things they're gonna have. I'm always gonna be HIV positive, even though they don't I'm undetectable, but I'm HIV positive.
Right.
And that ain't gonna change. And me being an addict, those two things ain't gonna change. So what I'm gonna do about it? I'm just responsible for the effort, not the outcome. And I'm gonna put the best effort in platform I get to speak on it. I'm all in.
So each of you, tell me one thing that you love about being a seasoned senior that none of us would imagine.
Hmm. I think the journey from 2000, from December the 16th, 2003, the first day I got clean, until now. It's just the journey and trusting the process, and the season. you know, I still think, like you said, the new 50 is the new 30. So I'm not a senior. You know, senior be like, you know what I mean? I don't even open up the ARRP letter they sent me. I don't even open them up. I mean,
You throw
I
it in the
really
mail. You throw it in the trash.
see. I might be in a little denial of that, right? You see what I'm saying? Everything's still working great. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just still a kid at heart, man. I just, you know, I'm not.
And you know what?
I'm a granddad. I don't walk around with a big old billfold. You know, the big old billfold your granddad you walk around with and have everybody focus in it. I don't do that. You know what I mean? I don't have a rocking chair on my front door. You know what I mean? And I still listen to Tupac. So
You still nurture your inner child.
I am still having fun, man. You know, and it over to God says over.
That's right. What about you, Kimberly?
I can just roll over and it's right there, you know, and I know what I'm gonna get, you know, not unless he has one of those hats on, you know. But I still know what kind of hats he have, you know. So it's great, you know. Like the search is over, the hunt, you know, is over, and it's wonderful. It really is.
And Nate is gone.
Now there are pills and even bi-monthly and monthly shots that you can take to protect from contracting HIV. Are you familiar with that? Or if you were sexually active and dating again, is that something that you would consider?
Well, first, I'm not familiar with any of those things. And if I were dating and sexually active, that would have to be a decision made in the future. I right now, no, I probably would not consider that right now.
For prevention, absolutely, I would consider it. I think it's important to have any preventative measure out there to help seniors or anyone to protect themselves.
I'm not too familiar with it. No, I'm not. I think that, that information needs to be shared with heterosexuals. Yes. Yeah, I would. There's never enough information. So yes.
If you were not together, do you think that it would matter to you what your partner's HIV status was?
Okay, I was saying I would definitely need to know, and I would like to know because it's very important for health reasons that we know what we're doing and what we're working with. And if you in that kind of relationship committed and sexual romantic relationship, I think all parties should know exactly what the status is. Absolutely.
I would say yes. It does matter what a senior's sexual status is at this time in my life, especially at this time in my life.
It matters if we have a conversation where the information I need to receive for me to make informed decisions is easy to do. And I think that happens when you've created a relationship, developed a relationship with someone with that deep, meaningful connection that allows for their status to be open. And so for me, it matters if you reveal that. It matters if you don't reveal it. So the status does matter to me, but it doesn't matter in the sense that it wouldn't cause me not to be in a relationship with someone else.
Yeah, because as a disabled person, we enjoy sex too. And even though a whole lot of people people shouldn't have sex, but we grown folks, and we are just like other grown folks, regardless of the severity or the type of disability that we have. There's a real big stigma, but when it comes to people with intellectual disabilities, people who are 50 and above, but have the IQ of a 10-year-old because of their disability, but they fully grown and they still enjoy sex if they were ever given the freedom to practice it.
Listen, we married. We've been together for 13 years. Whatever happened at this point, we sitting this thing through to the end. So I guess that would be a no.
I would say that, if it's a person that I'm in love with, and I'm in a committed relationship with, it wouldn't matter because, we would know, how to protect each other and how to live a lifestyle that would be, one that's, how can I say it, a safe situation for both parties, and, whatever, family members, whatever. But yeah, it wouldn't be an issue. Especially today, with what we know and treatments that we have and knowing how to be health conscious, it wouldn't be a problem though.
So, Dr. Thames Cook, there you have it. We've talked to a myriad of people with different lived experience, with a wide range of ages from 56 to 68. 68 would be me. And we see that each of them have said and indicated that, life goes on. Life goes on past HIV. Life goes on past addiction. And life goes on past living an older life. But the message that seemed to resonate was that love prevails, that there's intimacy beyond sex that makes it all the more better, and that there are creative ways to still remain safe, still remain connected, and to communicate. I think each of the panelists, showed us that communication was one of the biggest parts of their journey. And part of that communications was with themselves about their behaviors, with themselves about wanting something more, with themselves about not wanting to give up, not wanting to stay in a place of pain, not wanting to stay in a place of hurt, and not questioning what God's wish and desire was for their lives. I think that each of us realized that we are who we are because of what we've been through, what we've overcome, what we surrendered. And so I appreciate, you, Reggie. I appreciate you, Kimberly. I appreciate you, Dion. And I appreciate you, Dr. Cook, for taking the time out, because there's someone that needs to hear this conversation, that needs to know that there is a viable life as long as you have great intentions and as long as you put the effort towards making that life happen and realizing that the outcome, is not yours, that the battle is not yours. It's the Lord's. Whatever you have to give up to get what you need, that's what you have to do. We have safety precautions for every aspect of sexual expression. We have condoms, we have PrEP, we have PrEP that comes in oral form, PrEP that comes in injectable form now. And we also have long-term injectables for HIV, for people who, have pill burns, who are tired of taking pills every day, or whose lifestyle just, prohibits them from being adherent. So we have so many options today in order to live better, fulfilled lives. And I'm glad to be in this era of my life because I've seen so much go. I've seen so many things come to life. You know, whoever thought that we would even have a Black president? You know, so we've seen so many things in these years that we've been here. And just like you, Kimberly and Dion, I intend to see so many more. You know, because life is to be lived. And so as we celebrate this time together, I sincerely want to thank you because these conversations in Black are necessary because we as a people don't talk enough with each other. We don't talk about our issues. We don't talk about our struggles. We don't talk about how we made it over. We're quick to talk about accomplishments. Yes. But we also need to share the story and the journey through passion and through pain. And so I applaud each of you and I thank each of you for taking this time out. Some of the things that we didn't even get a chance to talk about was our mental health. There's a certain level of depression that goes along with diagnosis. There's a certain level of depression that goes along with substance use. But it's indicated by the smile on your face, Kimberly, that it wasn't enough to kill you. It wasn't enough to stop you. Reggie, I hear the confidence in your voice. It might have tore you down, but it didn't break you. And I'm just so delighted to be, here and helping to navigate this conversation. And I thank you for the opportunity because conversations in Black is necessary. We need to, people know that part of being human is being vulnerable. So if any of you have a final comment, this is the time I'd like for you to just, express how you felt about this, opportunity here today.
Well, I like to say that it gets greater later.
It gets greater later. I like that.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the things where I had to trust the process. I was asked to do this for a reason, and my head was telling me a whole lot of reasons why not to do it. But I still have developed a relationship with trust. So I had to learn to trust the process. And I'm glad I was able to come on and talk some Black conversation.
And I'm glad you did because you know what? There's so many of you that are still out there that need to know that there's a place for them on the other side of their pain. And so I thank you. I really do thank you. Reggie?
Yes, I just want to say we are all still under construction. God got more.
Dr. Cook?
Yeah, I can reiterate everything that's been said. And I want to take the opportunity, just in case someone listening has never heard of PrEP, just to define what that is. So it is a form of HIV prevention, the PR for pre-exposure, or the PRE for pre-exposure, the P for prophylaxis. So for those who can tolerate taking a tablet every day, there is an option for you, whether you're male or female. Likewise, if you can't fathom taking a pill every day and you prefer a shot only 6 times a year, then there is an injectable form of PrEP for you. So we want to make sure everyone has this glorious over 50 lifestyle, sexuality, and to do it safely.
Yes, I appreciate you. Thank you for all the work that you do. And thank you for stopping by. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you too.
Conversations in Black. Thank you all.